They say the first time someone tells you you're not good enough, it stays with you forever. For me, it happened on a windy September afternoon, the kind of day where the sky was too blue and the breeze too perfect to predict that it would be the day everything shifted. I was 14, a freshman, still wearing the nervous smile of someone who hadn't figured out where they belonged. My sneakers were too clean, my backpack too organized, and my dreams still untouched by the world's sharp edges. That afternoon, while most students drifted to buses or hung around the front steps talking about math class or lunch drama, I walked to the school track with a mix of nerves and hope buzzing in my chest. The boys' team was already warming up, stomping across the red oval in their bright singlets, the sound of their cleats crisp against the lanes. Coach Daniel stood at the edge of the field, stopwatch in hand, barking split times and nodding with approval. He was the kind of man who carried himself like every lap around that track was his to control. Tall, square-shouldered. His whistle never left his neck. His clipboard never left his hand. I hesitated at the fence, watching them. I didn't want to interrupt, but I also didn't want to chicken out. I'd been practicing for this moment all summer, jogging around my neighborhood, timing myself with an old kitchen timer, and whispering affirmations in my mirror. So I stepped onto the track. Coach Daniels noticed immediately. He looked me up and down from my oversized hoodie to my ponytail tied in a nervous knot. His expression tightened. Not cruel exactly, just dismissive. "Riley, right?" he said, his voice already coated with finality. I nodded. "Yes, coach. I wanted to ask about trying out for the team." He blinked, then let out a quiet laugh like I'd asked to borrow his car keys. "Sweetheart," he said, motioning toward the boys still running drills. "This is the boys' team." I nodded again. "I know. There's no girls' team." He raised an eyebrow. "There's a reason for that." I stood there, blinking in the sunlight, not understanding. He shrugged like it was all very simple. "Look, it's not personal. But girls just aren't built for distance running. Endurance, muscle recovery, it's biology. The boys train hard and push limits. It's different." I stared at him, trying to understand how someone could say something so wrong with such casual confidence. "But I've been training," I said, a little too quickly. "All summer. I'm not looking for special treatment. I just want a chance." Coach Daniel shook his head. "Trust me, you don't want this. Go enjoy high school, try something else. Student council, cheer, photography club, running with the boys will only set you up to fail." Behind him, a few of the runners had started paying attention. One elbowed another. They smirked. One of them made a fake running motion, exaggerated and clumsy. I felt my face flush with heat, not from embarrassment, but something darker. Rage? Shame? That moment should have broken me. It didn't. That night, I didn't tell my parents what happened. I didn't cry into my pillow or write dramatic entries in my journal. I just sat on my bedroom floor staring at my shoes. Then I set my alarm for 5 a.m. The next morning, while the world slept, I tied my laces, crept out the front door, and ran. No music, no stopwatch. Just the sound of my feet against the pavement and the cold air cutting my breath short. I ran until my legs trembled. I ran until my lungs ached. And then I kept running. Because if no one was going to open the door for me, I was going to build a different entrance, mile by painful mile. There's a certain kind of silence that comes when you run alone. It's not just the absence of noise, it's the way the world narrows to your breath, your feet, the pounding in your chest. For the next 3 years, that silence became my most loyal companion. Every morning before sunrise, I pulled myself out of bed before the alarm buzzed. I'd tie my shoes in the dark, trying not to wake my younger sister, and slip out the front door into a sleeping world. The streets were still wet with dew. Porch lights flickered on timers. Even the dogs hadn't started barking yet. I ran through cul-de-sacs and school parking lots, past corner stores that hadn't opened and mailboxes that held lives I didn't know. Sometimes I imagined I was running towards something. Other days I was running away. From that afternoon on the track, from Coach Daniel's smug tone, from every door that had ever been slammed shut just because I was a girl with a voice and a goal. I didn't have a coach or a training plan. What I had were borrowed library books about biomechanics and a beat-up journal where I logged miles and made notes like lungs burning today, ate too fast, or stretch calves more, left one tightened mid-run. YouTube became my coach. I watched endless videos of Olympic athletes, freeze-framing their strides and trying to mimic their form in the school gym mirror. I learned about tempo runs, negative splits, carb loading, VO2 max, terms my classmates didn't know, terms that felt like tiny victories when I wrote them in my notebook. I kept to myself at school. It wasn't that I was unfriendly. I just didn't have energy left for small talk. While other girls talked about prom dresses or the latest gossip on Instagram, I was icing my knees or checking my resting heart rate. My body became my experiment, my project, my protest. But it wasn't all noble. Some days I wanted to quit. Some days I did. There was one morning during sophomore year, sleeting rain, wind slicing sideways across my neighborhood. I stood in the garage in my running gear, hands shaking. I almost went back inside, almost crawled under the covers, almost let Coach Daniels be right. But then I remembered his face, his laugh, the way he'd said sweetheart like it was a leash. So I ran through the rain until my socks squelched and my arms felt like anchors. I ran because I knew no one was watching. And still, I had something to prove. During junior year, I stumbled across a flyer at the community center. River Valley Half Marathon, open registration, no school affiliations, no need for permission. I signed up under my mother's maiden name, Riley Brennan, and trained like my life depended on it. I still remember race day, the buzz of excitement, the sea of neon sneakers. No one knew who I was, and for the first time that felt like a gift. I ran steady, not fast, not flashy, just focused. I didn't stop, didn't walk, crossed the finish line with jelly legs and salty tears, and a clock that read 1:39:28. Third place in my age group. No medal, no photo in the school paper, no Coach Daniels patting my back, just me, and the knowledge that I could. When senior year rolled around, the school announced a community fun run, open to students, parents, alumni, teachers, a 5K loop around the campus. It wasn't a real race, but it was something. I signed up again. Another fake name. No fanfare. Coach Daniels was there that day, clipboard in hand, still barking at the boys' team, still pretending the track belonged to him. He didn't notice me warming up. He didn't recognize the stride I'd sharpened over 3 years of solitude. But when I crossed the finish line ahead of everyone, yes, including the boys, he looked up. For a flicker of a second, our eyes met. I gave him a small nod. He didn't nod back. He turned away. I didn't expect a parade, but deep inside, a match had struck. The fire had already been burning. Now it was blazing, because this wasn't about proving him wrong anymore. It was about proving me right. If high school was a whisper, college was a roar. For the first time, I wasn't invisible. I wasn't that quiet girl who runs alone. I was Riley Harper, freshman, runner, athlete. No one questioned why I was at tryouts. No one told me what girls could or couldn't do. And yet, I was terrified. I remember standing on the edge of the university's practice field the day of open tryouts. My heart pounded like I was back on that high school track all over again. But this time the voices in my head weren't boys laughing. They were doubts I had carried inside me for years. Am I good enough? Do I belong? What if everything I've trained for and still isn't enough? But then the whistle blew, and my legs remembered. My body remembered. All those lonely morning runs, the wet socks, the sprained ankle I didn't ice properly, because I didn't want to skip a day. The miles I logged with no audience and no praise. I ran like I had something to say. And when it was over, Coach Nguyen, the head of the women's distance team, jotted something on her clipboard and walked over. "You've got endurance," she said, barely winded. "And fire. We need both." I made the team. That night, in my dorm room, I cried. Not because I was sad, not even because I was proud. I cried because I finally felt seen. Our team wasn't famous. We weren't breaking national records or trending on social media. But to me, we were everything. Early morning practices, ice baths, recovery meals, eaten cross-legged on locker room floors. I was surrounded by women who ran like warriors, laughed like sisters, and treated the track like it was sacred ground. We pushed each other. We celebrated PRs like gold medals. We carried each other through slumps, cramps, and heartbreaks. When one girl's boyfriend dumped her before state, we all showed up with chocolate and burned his hoodie. We were a tribe, and I had never had one before. By sophomore year, I was shaving seconds off my mile like clockwork. Coach Nguyen started pushing me into longer distances, 5K, 10K, then steeplechase. "Your lungs are built like steel," she once told me, "but it's your mindset that's going to make you dangerous." That year, I broke the school record in the 1,500 meters. Not by much, just a second and a half. But the finish line photos caught it all. The blur of motion, the clenched fists, the tears on my cheeks before my knees even hit the ground. But I didn't send the article to Coach Daniels. I didn't post the photo online for validation. I didn't tag anyone because part of me still believed that I hadn't done it yet, the thing that would make me undeniable. That came the summer before my junior year. It started with an email. "Congratulations, you've been selected to attend the Texas State Olympic Development Camp." I read it 3 times. My hand shook. My throat tightened. It was real. The camp was brutal. Early mornings in desert heat, drills that pushed the boundaries of what I thought I could handle. Sports psychologists who asked tough questions about why we ran and what we feared. I loved every second of it. For the first time, I wasn't just one of the best at school. I was one of the best in the state. We ran on pro-grade tracks. We were coached by former Olympians. I got my stride analyzed with high-speed cameras and ran intervals with women who would soon become national names. And still, some nights, I lay in bed and thought of him. Coach Daniels, the track back home, the laugh, the line. Girls just aren't built for this. It wasn't hate that I felt anymore. It was clarity. I wasn't running for him. I never really had. I was running for the girl who stood in front of him and didn't cry. I was running for the girls who would come after. That fall, I came back to campus stronger, faster, clearer. But what happened next wasn't in any race plan. Because sometimes the past is a way of catching up to you in the most unexpected ways. And this time, it came in the form of a Facebook post, a photo of Coach Daniels, a caption. "Come celebrate the centennial of Lincoln High, alumni events, community races, and one last lap around the track." And just like that, the fire came roaring back. I stared at the Facebook post for a long time, like it might change if I blinked hard enough. Lincoln High Centennial Celebration, community races, alumni events, final track lap with Coach Daniels. Relive your glory days with the man who built a legacy. A legacy. That word settled in my chest like a stone. For some, Daniels had been a builder of teams, titles, tradition. For me, he was the wall I had to break through. The comments under the post were full of praise. Coach D changed my life. Can't wait to run that last lap with the legend. 25 years and his 800-meter record still stands. Beast. That one stung the most. 2:12, 800 meters, 25 years. No one had touched it until now. I clicked the sign-up link. This time, I didn't use a fake name. No pseudonyms, no hiding. I typed it slowly, proudly. Riley Lynn Harper. When I landed in my hometown a week later, summer clung to the air like an old song. The streets looked smaller, the corners sharper, and the school, somehow exactly the same. Red brick, green bleachers, and that tired old track that had once felt like a battlefield. I parked my rental car and took a long breath before stepping out. The parking lot buzzed with energy. Former students greeting each other, alumni posing with their kids, volunteers handing out race bibs and neon water bottles. The 800-meter alumni race was scheduled for 4 p.m. It was late afternoon now, and the heat shimmered over the blacktop. Sweat dotted my back before I even reached check-in. When I gave my name, the woman at the table did a double take. "Oh, Harper? You're on Coach D's list. He's excited to see everyone back." I smiled politely but said nothing. Excited? We'd see. I stretched near the edge of the field, watching the older runners joke and laugh. Most of them hadn't trained in years. This wasn't a real race to them. It was nostalgia, an excuse to relive memories and feel fast again for a few short minutes. But for me, it was more. I wasn't here to relive anything. I was here to rewrite everything. The sun hung low when they called us to the starting line. There were maybe 15 of us. I noticed a few familiar faces from high school, older now, softer around the edges, but still recognizable. A couple looked at me curiously, trying to place the name. Coach Daniels stood near the line, clipboard in hand like always, whistle dangling like a badge of honor. His hair was grayer, his posture slightly stooped, but his presence was still heavy. He scanned the runners, eyes pausing when they landed on me. Something flickered in his expression, curiosity, confusion, maybe even familiarity. "You here to cheer someone on?" he asked casually. I met his gaze without flinching. "No," I said, pinning my bib to my chest. "I'm running." His eyes dropped to the name on the bib, and I saw it click, his brows furrowed. "Riley. Harper?" I didn't offer more. I let the silence do the talking. He didn't say anything else, just gave a small nod and stepped back. The whistle blew. I took off easy, 1 lap, 2 turns, 400 meters. That's all the others had in mind. But I knew this distance by heart. I knew how to slice it, how to suffer in it, and how to break it wide open. The first 200, I stayed even, middle of the pack. Let the chatter fade and the rhythm find me. The second 200, I shifted gears, slightly, let my stride lengthen, let the ground come to me. The third 200 is always the killer. It's where your legs betray you, where your lungs beg for mercy. But mine didn't, because I had trained for this, for years, in silence, in snow, in spite. And now, in the last 200, I soared. I passed one runner, then another. I saw the finish line. I saw Daniels watching, and I ran like it would erase every time I had been dismissed, like every footfall said, "I belong. I belong. I belong." When I crossed the line, I slammed the stopwatch on my wrist. 2 minutes, 9 seconds, 47 milliseconds. 3 seconds faster. 3 seconds that spanned 11 years, 1,000 lonely mornings, and one coach who never believed in me. He approached slowly, clipboard tucked under his arm like a shield. "That was unexpected," he said, voice tight. I met his eyes. "No," I said, calm and steady. "It was inevitable." For a moment after I crossed the finish line, there was only silence. No applause, no cheers, just the sound of my breath, sharp, rhythmic, alive. My chest rose and fell as the adrenaline softened into something gentler. Clarity. I looked down at the numbers on my watch again. 2 minutes, 9 seconds, 47 hundredths. 3 seconds faster than Coach Daniel's 25-year-old record. 3 seconds that felt like justice. A few of the other runners filtered across the line behind me. Some high-fived each other. Others bent over, gasping, laughing. It was a race for them, but it wasn't the race, not like it had been for me. Coach Daniels lingered near the infield, his face unreadable. He looked older now, tired in a way I hadn't noticed before. His eyes found mine as I caught my breath, but he didn't say anything right away. Just nodded, tightly, formally, like I had just completed an assignment correctly. "That was unexpected," he finally said. I wiped sweat from my forehead and met his gaze head on. Number it was inevitable. He didn't argue. For once, he didn't try to explain or justify. He just stood there, holding a clipboard that suddenly looked much lighter in his hands, like it no longer held power over me. And just like that, I felt it. The shift. The quiet moment when the mountain you've been climbing finally levels out beneath your feet and you realize you're standing taller now. Not because anyone handed you a peak, but because you fought for every inch of it. Later that evening, I found myself walking the halls of Lincoln High alone. The lockers were smaller than I remembered. The trophy case looked dustier, and yet everything felt cleaner somehow. Cleansed. I stopped at the hallway outside the gym, where they'd mounted the new placards for the school's top athletic performances. There it was. 800 meters, Riley L. Harper, 2 minutes 9.47 seconds, Centennial Alumni Race, record holder. For the first time, my name was etched into the place that had once shut its doors to me. And it wasn't because someone gave me permission. It was because I demanded space and made it. Coach Daniels retired a year later. I heard through a mutual acquaintance that he left quietly, without ceremony. No interviews, no long speeches. Just packed his things and disappeared from the program he had built his life around. Some people said he left because the school was going soft, starting to let girls into everything now. Others said he just knew when it was time, but I knew better. He left because he had been passed, and this time, he couldn't pretend otherwise. As for me, I kept running, but not for vengeance anymore. Not to prove anything to Coach Daniels, or the boys who laughed, or the school that made me invisible. Now, I ran for different reasons. I ran to remember how far I'd come. I ran because my feet felt like truth pounding into the pavement. I ran for every girl who's ever been told she couldn't, shouldn't, won't. And I ran because there is something deeply defiant and deeply beautiful about showing up in the world, unapologetically, in the exact body and mind that once made people underestimate you. They say the last lap is the hardest. But for me, the last lap was the one where I finally ran free. It was a chilly autumn morning when I first saw her. The local community center was holding tryouts for a new youth track program, and I'd been invited as a guest speaker. I almost said no. My schedule was full, and I wasn't sure I was ready to return to the sidelines instead of the start line. But something inside me whispered, "You're not done yet." She was 12, maybe 13, scrawny, knees scraped, eyes filled with fire. Her name was Aria, and the first thing she said to me was, "Do you really think girls can run as fast as boys?" I smiled, kneeling down so we were eye level. "No," I said. "I think we can run faster." She didn't laugh. She nodded, like she already knew it, but needed someone to confirm it out loud. That afternoon, I stayed long after the other speakers left. I ran a few laps with the girls, timed their sprints, gave tips on breathing and stride. Aria stayed right beside me the whole time, quiet, focused, like someone who had already heard no too many times and was learning to fight back with silence and sweat. Before I left, she handed me a crumpled piece of paper with her personal best times written in pencil. "They're not great yet," she said, "but I'm working on it." I took the paper like it was gold. "These are better than mine were at your age. And I turned out okay." She grinned. "You broke your school's record, right?" I nodded. "And Coach Daniel said girls couldn't run?" "Exactly." "Then I guess I'll break your record someday." I felt something shift in me again. Not like that day at the finish line. This was softer, deeper. The realization that legacy isn't just what we leave behind. It's who we lift up while we're still here. I started running with them. And every time I saw Aria lace up her sneakers, eyes bright and focused, I remembered that first moment on the high school track, when I was told I didn't belong. Now I was building a world where no girl would have to hear those words again. Because the greatest finish line isn't the one we cross. It's the one we move forward, so the next girl can cross it even farther.